Hello, 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 everyone. I have here, wait one moment. Just give me a moment to get everything queued up.
Thanks, Doctor.
Doop, doop. Let's turn this on. Make sure that I am now live. I am. Do I have people in chat? Hello. How's everyone's view and sound? Okay, I have that over here so I can read chat. Good. Nice to see you, Paolo. So, I guess everyone probably remembers this. This was the topic of my live streams for altogether too many live streams. I've set it aside for a while, but this is my finished Canada food guide illustration. I've scanned it this way, but I'm going to add a background, and I want to do this. I've realized recently that I have a bit of a fear of backgrounds, and I've been sort of playing into the convention in botanical art of not having backgrounds because they're distracting. But I, sorry, let me just zoom this out just a tiny bit. A bit further maybe? Can I zoom this out further? Oh, let me just make sure that I am perfectly in focus here. Let me use that. That looks about right. Sorry, and there we go. Yeah, so I just want to add a background, and I'm thinking just a plain blue gingham tablecloth. And so I've already scanned this, so if I don't like it, it's no big deal. This is a painting that I'm using primarily for reproduction. I'm hoping to sort of, alongside the longer-term personal projects that I'm working on, I'm hoping to do a little bit more editorial illustration. So I've really been winding down longer commissions. I find I work best on a very tight, limited editorial sort of timeline. But I would love to do books which have a number of illustrations, or editorial, which is, you know, very, very quick turnarounds, so I can have a really defined, focused thing, break from other illustrations. This is obviously not an example of something that I did in a very short period, but I wanted to use this to promote, you know, some of what I can do with watercolor. So I scanned this first. So I have this scanned. If I decide that I like it better with the white background, I can just use that image. Although again, with the white background, I can probably just edit out the background as well, which is the neat thing. But I also wanted to try putting in a background. I figured I'd do that all in one shot here on live. So I'm just gonna go grab real quick my interesting. This was, I was gonna use cobalt. Oh, there it is. Okay. just wanted to find, so for this painting, I've used Roman Schmal Aquarius paints through the whole painting. And so this is my little set that I've made of some of my favorite paints from Roman Schmal. Roman Schmal has been very, very generous and sent me quite a number of different paints to try out. So the last two releases, when he released new paints, he sent me the full release, as well as initially when the company was initially launched, I received a few paints to try out. I've also bought a few myself, which means I have a good bit of the full set. I should actually look through that because I think it might be possible for me to just complete the full set, just buying a few more. So I might do that. But yeah, so that's that. And I think I'm going to use their cobalt blue for this. The full set is rather large. Yes, so the full set is like 150-ish paints now, I believe. And I definitely don't have that many, but I definitely have over 50 of them. Yeah, so there's 28 in this box. I've got another box over there. Like, I've got quite a few. They are the second biggest, yes. So his goal is to be the largest selection and the largest selection of single pigments. And he's well on his way. Yeah, they do have the second biggest selection after Daniel Smith. And I definitely don't think that it's necessary to have that many different colors. I just feel like because they were so generous in sending them to me already, and because I really like these paints, the ones that I have, I should look at just how many I'm missing, because I might be able to just complete the set. With only the company who shall not be named in first. Yes, correct. And if you dismissed the not real minerals line, the fake minerals line, if you dismiss that, then you're already, yeah, then you're much closer as well. Also, hi Boy Nirvana. I don't know if I've seen you in this chat before. Welcome. Okay, I'm going to start loading up some cobalt blue. So I'm going to use quite a bit here, and I'm not worrying about the fact that my paints are all kind of mixed up in here and that there's still traces of other paints. I know that this method drives people mad. Sorry. And by sorry, I mean sorry, not sorry. Whee! Well, well. And I've already spilled some cobalt on my painting. I'm going to move this out of the way for a moment. Because I'm going to need quite a bit of this, so I might as well just dig right in. Cobalt is interesting. It gets this sort of milky look when it's wet. That goes away as it dries. Very, very interesting. This is kind of what I love about watercolor versus some other media, is watercolor really lets the properties of the different pigments shine, which is of course a big challenge. Like, I kind of used to hate it when I first started painting because I just wanted to play with pure color, like just the color was, enough challenge without thinking about things like granulation and color shift and tinting strength and staining and not staining and the heaviness of pigments and all of these different factors that affect how a paint behaves. But as I've gotten more into painting, I find these things really fun to play with. And I start experimenting with different paints, and I'll sort of focus on one pigment at a time for a while. So, you know, I dismissed rose madder as a paint that I'd never like for a long time, and then I discovered, or not rose madder, sorry, potter's pink. I don't know how I managed to mix those two up. They are very different. I dismissed potter's pink as a paint that I would never really get into because it's low tinting and it's very subdued and heavily granulating, can be difficult to re-wet, but I've really enjoyed playing with it because I find it adds a sort of subtle texture to a lot of subjects, and so, you know, I'm really enjoying that I've sort of created the freedom for myself to play with that. Oh dang, I was going to record this as I'm streaming, but I think I selected the wrong option there. Okay, so this is quite a bit of paint. Of course, for using this much paint, it would of course have been easier if I was using tube paint. This is the sort of situation where I'm using enough of one paint that it would have been nicer to just use tube paint. Unfortunately, at this time, Roman Schmal is only available in pans, but luckily they're quite easy to re-wet, so that didn't really take that long. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this one brush. It's a short flat, and I'm just going to paint a sort of, I'm going to paint a bunch of stripes one direction and a bunch of stripes the other direction, and then I'm actually going to grab myself a little test sheet because I do want them to be fairly even, and then I might do some extra detailing on it afterwards. Okay, I have this little thing of Stonehenge Aqua Hot Press, which is going to be my test paper for today, because I don't have a great use for this, but I just need to make sure that I am putting in the right amount of paint. So just want to make sure that I'm not overdoing it. And then without further ado, I'm just going to dive in. So I'm going to start right at the corner. Oh, and of course I started at the wrong corner. That was a little bit awkward. And then people see me do things like this. They're like, oh my goodness, you're fearless. This is where you realize that in some ways, ADHD is a blessing. Hi, Mom. So I'm going to have to rotate this around in a moment. Anyway, I think that this is actually going to come out fairly, like, obviously painterly, which is, I think, the point. Where, like, I'm not really trying to hide that this is paint. You know, if you want a photo, you take a photo. I've been meaning to actually do a video about that because it's a change in how I sort of perceive my own work and what my goals are. I used to think of it as a failing that, you know, my work doesn't, you can see brush strokes and you can see that it's a painting versus, you know, the best work has to be completely, you know, like a photo, like you can't see you can't see the material. And here you can see that I had previously made a mess and had gotten some yellow on either the paper or my brush. And I'm no longer really worried about that. So I'm just going to, yep. I was going to use a test sheet, but actually I think that I'm probably just going to use this as is and I'm going to pull this down a little bit. So the unfortunate thing about this brush is I wanted a fairly stiff rectangular brush, but then this is a synthetic. It's a nice synthetic. It's a nice springy synthetic, but it's a synthetic, so it's not holding very much pigment, and it's distributing it pretty, shall we say, suddenly. So you're getting an unevenness to the wash. Just sent my email to Schminke requesting their catalogs. Let's see if I get them. Ooh! That's a good idea. I should do that. I should send more request emails too. Oh, that's quite dark. Steve Bannon got convicted. Well, that was quick and good. Stephen Turner says, hi, Lee, everyone from beautiful North Bay. Ooh, hi, how's North Bay? I hope you're enjoying your time. That sounds like a really nice summer break. Do you know what you're doing afterwards? Because you're in North Bay, I think you mentioned that you're staying in a student residence over the summer. I'm assuming that that then ends in September when the students go back to school. That's a really wonderful way to travel. If you can get a hold of those, like the places that open up their student residences over the summer. Okay, and so I am not really trying to make this particularly even because, you know, fabric stretches, and also, again, as I mentioned, in this case I'm not really trying to hide the brush strokes at all. Not that that's a really, like, I don't really try to hide that things are a painting. I just try to communicate as well as I can, and I feel like if I can do that while still leaving some trace of it being a painting, like, so much the better. Oh, sorry, I'm pushing this off the screen, aren't I? Maybe if I... Okay, I'm actually playing, sorry, just trying to play with my viewfinder here. I need to get a new tripod. Not tripod, sorry. I need to get a new... Yeah. Chancellor's House on the Nipissing New Grounds to leave August 7th because they expect a lot of cleanup. I stay with my brother for a few weeks in Kingsville. Where is Kingsville? Then my new apartment in September. So is your new apartment back in KW? Leamington. Oh, okay, cool. I applied for a residency in the national park there a while back. Didn't get it, but, you know, maybe one day. Been looking at residencies again lately. The Hub 365 Albert Street. Well, that will be a difference. Is that? Wait, 365 Albert. So we looked at one apartment. Man, that was ages ago, but no, that wasn't on Albert. Albert really is with the kids, huh? We looked at one apartment near the university that restricted, like they wouldn't take undergrad students generally. And of course, my husband was going back for his undergrad, but because I was wrapping up my undergrad at U of T and my husband was coming back after working as a mature student, they were going to let us in. We ended up not going for that apartment, even though in some ways it was the nicest one, because it was just at the edge of our budget. And it was up in a tower and really windy. Albert and Columbia. Yeah, so that, I'm just trying to picture 365 Albert. So like that is really, it's going to be all students. Well, that'll be fun. You can hang with the kids. and it'll be great. I know some people who are very fussy about, I don't want to be next to the university students. There are some downsides, but there are some upsides. You're going to have some of the best late night availability of groceries and takeout and events. Students are great. They're just also like, I don't know, I thought I was so adult when I was in university. And now I look at university students, it's like, oh, they're little larvae. Still planning a return to school, currently updating my personal trainer qualifications with an online course. Oh, cool. Is that, would you go to school then for something related to that? I'm assuming you're saying planning a return to school, like not the online stuff that you're doing now, but in person or a college or university. Are there many students at Nipissing now? Like, I'm assuming they do run summer classes, so it's less busy, but it's still, there must still be some students. How are you finding that? No, I think back to IT related stuff, it turns out that C is still relevant, like the programming language. Yes, absolutely. Still very much in use. Like, a lot of the practices in terms of how businesses are run have changed. And there's been a lot of development in terms of the tools and libraries that are used, but the basic language is still something that hasn't dramatically changed and you could still use. Finally make a stream. I love getting a chance to look at the Canadian food plate. Hi Mikey, how are you? I haven't been on Discord a huge amount lately, so I haven't gotten your updates if you've been on. Lots of Indigenous families, lots of kids, little kids around. Oh, cool. I guess there are a bunch of reserves right there, aren't there? I used a lot of crude workflow tools back in the day, OpenText, CVS, and so on. Okay, I mean, to be honest, like, I am not speaking from experience to a huge extent because I did not work. I worked in tech companies, and I absorb a lot of things through osmosis because my husband still works in computer science, but Not sure that I... Yeah, can really comment certainly on how it's changed. But just that there's a lot more, well, sorry, I guess what I can say is that there's a lot more integration and cloud services, and, you know, the way of using your databases is going to be very different. I haven't been on social media very much lately. They put me on a medication that literally knocks me out 18 hours a day. I'm going to have to do something about it soon. Oh gosh. I'm so sorry, Mikey. Yeah, I've had a lot of sleep this week too. Although it's not medication related, it's just heat related, I think, in my case. I mean, the medication I've been on for a while, so it's not, there's no change in my medication, but... Sorry, I need to bring this forward, I guess. Let me know if anything is blurry or out of focus. I've been trying to adjust where this is. Trying to quit all my medications. I am quite happy staying on my medications. But or unless you're talking about self-medicating. In which case, yeah, I mean, I've actually been sort of curious about a bunch of things. I'm always looking into native plants and like tea gardens. I've been really kind of curious about sassafras recently. It sounds delicious. And apparently can help with my ADHD. But it contains saffrol, which is a precursor to ecstasy. So it's restricted for sale in the US. Not in Canada. And there's some not very convincing evidence. Like, they quoted a study that's since been rather debunked about the health risks of sassafras root, which used in root form, like if you're using extracts, obviously that's going to be something different. But sassafras is a great sounding word. Yes, and it's a native plant that you can grow in your backyard, Mom. Would you like to grow me some sassafras? It apparently makes delicious tea. It's the original root in root beer. And it is a mild, stimulates dopamine, I believe. Which is, of course, the same thing as my prescription amphetamines do. other things. I'm lucky that I really don't like alcohol at all, but I'd be hard-pressed to quit cannabis. Yeah, I've quit alcohol entirely because I started getting weird headaches, like from the tiniest amounts. You know, take a sip of something, take a sip of beer and feel like I've got a hangover. In fact, before I started my meds, although I'm sure that the meds actually would make that worse. Cannabis I don't use much, but does not have any negative effects as far as I can tell. I used cannabis to get through my last 2 sets of exams in university, and I do have oils now. They're nice for relaxing sometimes. But mostly I have my prescription stuff. Oh, that one's a little close. Then I'm gonna have to start figuring out, yeah, okay, so that's gonna have to be up. Just trying to make sure that I'm not running off, that these are still lining up mostly. Are you having recalling dreams? If not, it may be interfering with REM. Sorry, are you asking Mikey or myself? And what are you asking about? I do have dreams. I sometimes have issues falling asleep, although to be honest, that has gone way down with my prescriptions. Even though I'm taking amphetamines, so I am on Effexor. Not Effexor, sorry, Effexor is the wrong one. Effexor is the SNRI. I am on, sorry, Vyvanse, which is lisdexamfetamine. Which is it's a stimulant. So I have to take it early in the day, but it helps me set my cycle to a huge extent. If I take it in the morning, then I have a full day and then I'm back to sleep at night, so it actually helps me enforce a cycle. Recently, my biggest problem with sleep is that the cat has been trying to wake us up. And so sometimes he'll wake us up directly, and sometimes he'll wake up the dog and get the dog riled up, so then the dog needs to go outside really early. I didn't have an off switch would always end up using a ton. Ah, yeah, gotcha, yes. In terms of cannabis, yes, my concern with cannabis is that it boosts, it occupies dopamine receptors, so it can, in the short term, it can help with ADHD symptoms, but in the long term, it's a little unclear, but it may actually make managing ADHD symptoms through other means more difficult if you form a habit. So since I have medication that, I mean, it's not perfect, and I do wish that it managed some things better, but since I do have medication that works better than cannabis, I'm hesitant to, interfere with that. But I really want to try sassafras tea because it sounds tasty and because it's a lovely native plant. And it's completely legal in Canada. I reckon 500 cigarettes a year for 50 years. Sorry, in terms of like how much you've smoked? Like 500 joints, right? Because you don't smoke tobacco, do you? Use cannabis most of the day because my stomach issues, the gastroparesis, my other issues, I have no appetite without. Yes, so that is one thing that cannabis really does help with, doesn't it? It really depends on like what your issues are. Like when I was in university, again, I used cannabis to get through my exams, and to be honest, it was a lot better than the other alternatives open to me at the time. So I have no regrets about that, and certainly wouldn't judge other people. In that case, yes, likewise. I mean, I didn't have an appetite, I was throwing up, I was not sleeping, and I had trouble focusing because of the anxiety. So I figured, okay, well, if all this does is make me want to binge eat and then sleep, I'll still be better off. But it also gave me, calmed down my anxiety enough that I could study. So in university, that was a great solution. Joints? Reefers? I think it's joints usually. The other thing is I also know, like, I have oil now, as well as butter. And edibles are nice sometimes, especially for the, like, helping you sleep or helping you eat. But I never liked the feeling of smoke in my throat. So although that is, I used a water bong in university, and I guess joints at one point. Yeah. I mean, totally valid as just a, like, relaxed strategy too, right? No judgment here. I just overthink all my own health things. And because I'm already on prescription medication, I also just need to think about long-term effects and how things are interacting with the stuff that I'm prescribed, which does work better than other stuff in the long term. Is the plate part of the work finished? Yes. So I've scanned it, and so if I don't like how this tablecloth thing looks, I still have the original painting without the tablecloth. Now, I may find, as I often do, that, oh, actually I need to deepen some shadows or something after I take a closer look at the scan, because I scanned it in pieces, but I haven't assembled it and prepared it just yet. If so, that's fine. I can still make those changes. Looking at sunflower seeds, not unfinished pumpkin seeds. Yes, pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds. But yeah, so I might look at this and decide, oh, you know what they need? They need a little bit deeper shadows here. Like that is totally possible, and so I can do that and just combine, like, edit it into an existing image if I feel so inclined. That amount of editing is totally not a problem. And I frequently do finish a piece and then months later come back and decide that something needs deepening. Usually it's that. It's these shadows need punching in. That's fairly common. I mean, I'm fairly bedbound with the wheelchair and the oxygen. I could be depressed, but I'm not. Just chilled out and happy most of the time. Thank goodness for cannabis, which is lovely. That's fantastic. I mean, not lovely that you're bedbound. Would for sure be nicer if you could have the option of having more freedom. I know that you struggle with some really nasty health issues. Anyway, yes, I was just saying I don't mean for my decisions to be seen as judgment of someone else's, right? I'm not. the long-term management of my issues has no bearing on other people's. Hi, Jill. How are you? So I'm back to this thing. Just putting in the background though, I'm done the actual painting. It's quite dark. Yeah, so I started out feeling like I might have to test every single one of these, make sure that I'm not overdoing anything, but I don't think that's how I'm going to manage this, because, yeah, not much for testing every brush stroke. And it's just going to be a little bit uneven, and that's okay. I like it. That turned out beautifully. Thank you, Jill. No need for sorries. I'm just Canadian, I just have to say sorry for everything. Yes, I believe that Posca makes acrylic and oil-based pens. Yeah, I don't think that acrylic Posca pens as a whole are new, although they might have some new line. The range of beiges in the toast color. toast corner is really something else. I've been staring there for the last 10 minutes. Oh, thank you. I hope. Yeah. I'm glad that my use of beige is so captivating. Yeah, that was a bit of a challenge, to be honest, like, in a way, trying to make it as interesting as the areas with brighter colors. I feel like yeah, I need to make more space here. I don't know how, but this one ended up much further off. Like I'm not making as much of a, they're not as big over here or something, my lines. So I'm gonna make one a little bit bigger over here, a bit smaller over here. Does that have pastels, which I didn't know about? Materials and all uses. I thought they had oil-based as well. Do they not have oil-based? I thought they had oil-based. I could have sworn I'd used oil-based Posca markers. Am I just kind of insane? Might just be kind of insane. Not listed on their site unless they retired the product. I might be mixing it up with something else. I may have been calling something a Posca marker that it was actually a something else marker because I was also using Posca markers at the time or something. I don't know. I mean, to be honest, like acrylic or oil-based markers are not, you know, they're not in my high rotation of things that I use frequently, so. I only have a few gray markers. Tombow? I think Sharpie makes... Yeah, so they might have just been a Sharpie marker, and I had like a bunch of Poscas and a Sharpie available to me. I'm just thinking of some projects that I've done, like group things where I wasn't the one choosing the product, so they were just products available to me. That seems quite likely. Oy. It's a little much. Let's get some of that blue off of there and into here and into this one. Well, this might take a bit longer than I thought it would. And I was like, yeah, sure, this will be a short stream. Apparently not. Apparently painting this many lines just takes some time, huh? Because I'm going to have to paint them this way, and then I'm going to paint them the other way, and then depending on how that looks, I might actually add in some diagonals across these to make the weave pattern. Sharpie used to make acrylic markers too. The white was pretty good. Ah, okay. Yeah, so I think I probably had acrylic Poscas and oil-based Sharpies. This was, yeah. Sorry, I'm just going to close this up and refresh. There we go. Much better. I've learned you can fix Posca on ceramics and glass by baking them. Yes! Yes! So I did have a mug exchange with one of my best friends. We both painted mugs and then traded them at one point. And yeah, we baked it on. I've still got the mug. It's fantastic. It's not as, because you're putting it over a glaze, it's not going to be as durable as something like an actual ceramic glaze. It does scratch off over time, especially if you put it in a dishwasher, but it's pretty durable. You can get kits like that for kids that are, you know, you paint your own mug and then you bake it. Nope. Let's make sure that is there. Put a clear varnish after baking. I did no such thing, so maybe that's why mine is also not quite as durable. But again, like that was, like 13 years ago. I still got the mug. It's not like I use it every day, but it sees some use. Still got its crazy cracking on it. glass they recommend hand wash. Yeah, so we definitely are hand washing it. I'm going to turn this around, maybe, ooh, on this side, where it's going to look different. Yeah, I was a little concerned about that. Hopefully I can do this without smudging it, because it is kind of important to rotate it around and do both sides. Otherwise you end up with it shifting as you go, because your perception from all the way up there is different. Back to the beige, I'm sitting here thinking about how challenging it must have been to come up with all the different beiges and still make it visually interesting. I mean, it was something that I puzzled over, but it wasn't like, let me decide exactly what beige I'm gonna put, right? It was more like relative. Like, start with one and, oh, I should make this one redder over here, and like, it's not like I, you know, planned out exactly what beige I'm gonna put in every spot, if that makes sense. Relative color rather than absolute. These conversations are great for like reminding me of class topics and class topics and blog post topics. Man, I need to post on my blog. I haven't done that in a while. Video topics. I do have some videos coming out. That's exciting. Nope. I'm gonna put some more blue in here because I've got this yellow spot that I'm not thrilled about. I'm gonna go grab some more blue. Ta-da! Much more blue. Because this has gotten all wet. Agree with Mikey. Thanks. People are so sweet. Well, I can do a class, a Patreon class on relative color and or a blog post. The other thing I might use this image for is I've been meaning to try to get some public art commissions, but so larger scale, like mural type stuff. I have very, very little experience with murals, but there is a call for entry for some proposals for the Kitchener market. I live in Kitchener. And we have a farmer's market, and they're taking proposals for mural work on a number of sites around the market. I feel like this would be a good part of a pitch to do something related on a larger scale, like a big collection of different things. Maybe not the food guide specifically, but locally produced foods. Yeah. So some sort of jumping off point. And I might just try to get a collaborator, like somebody who has a little bit more mural experience to help me set up. And so have to get in touch with some muralists on the never-ending huge to-do list. Ooh, that's a lot of blue. Toy, is that ever a lot of blue? Okay. Although I have to say, I'd looked at the size, and I mean, it is a huge, hugely larger than what I'm currently working on. But I was like, oh no, murals are like much bigger in every dimension than anything that I've ever worked on. And then I realized that right now I'm working on a full watercolor sized, like full imperial sized watercolor sheet piece in watercolor and ink with a tiny little pen, like obviously not materials that I would use for a mural. But like, I don't know that I can handle something so much bigger, and then realize that like, oh no, some of these things, they're like larger, or they're smaller in at least one dimension. Like they're much larger overall, but they're, you know, a full watercolor sheet is 30 inches, and some of these spots are smaller than 30 inches wide. Like they're columns or something. So they're 2 feet wide. So it's still larger than, by far, than what I'm working on. And obviously I would have to scale up. Like I you know, they're not paying enough or providing enough time for me to do it all at a, you know, using teeny tiny size 2 brushes scale. But I was just thinking, what if the plate was junk food, you know, with a hot dog on it and cotton candy or funnel cake or a Big Mac? That sounds like a fun project. I mean, I have a lot of fun projects that never pan out, so no promises there, but it does sound like fun. I do like me some funnel cake. Perpetually craving onion rings. There's cat and dog fur everywhere in my house. It's absurd. I need to vacuum. But there's also so much clutter. Oh man. Even when I do vacuum, like I can't get at everything. We've been living in a tiny fraction of our house because our basement flooded, and we'd been delaying starting on the renovation for months and months and months because of insurance. Insurance still has not paid out. There are lawyers involved. At this point we are renovating, which just limits us even further. That's a neat idea, my actual plate. Now I feel like pizza. I would never in a gazillion years eat a hot dog, but lately I've been thinking about them. It's weird. You wouldn't eat a hot dog. Are you vegetarian or? I am vegetarian. I do not eat real hot dogs. I do sometimes eat the fakey hot dogs. I never used to like pizza much, but man, when I'm renovating, even though like this time around especially, it's my husband doing a lot of the physical work, my body just can't cope. Somehow get all hungry doing work. It's like I have no appetite until suddenly I just want onion rings and pizza. It's bad. And since US ate 75 hot dogs in 10 minutes for the Nathan's competition. That's disgusting. Ugh. Ugh. Just the thought of ugh. Okay, I'm gonna turn this back around. Ah, Mikey, I can't stop thinking about, I'm eating a little cheese. My weight is a bit too low, under 150. Right, because you've been plant-based mostly, right? I have started, well, so I am trying to up my protein intake. Which, like, there's plenty of plant-based protein, but combined with never having an appetite, and then only plant-based protein, only plant-based protein and never having an appetite, and needing to up my protein because plant-based protein isn't as easily absorbed, and, you know, ADHD and anxiety and whatever, probably a collagen issue. It seems like everywhere I look, you know, upping my protein intake might be helpful for me. It certainly feels like it's helpful, but I'm never hungry. I'm never hungry. So getting, you know, I was like, okay, I'm going to aim for like 90 to 100 grams of protein a day. Getting that when I have no appetite from only plant-based sources is so difficult. So I've been having, there's this natural milk that's protein. It's got extra milk protein in it, and I thought it was just going to destroy me. I tried it, but I was like, I can't handle milk protein. Have to run out early, but it was nice sitting with you all. Cheers. Bye, Jill. Sorry. Anyway, so I've been having this like extra protein milk, and in the past I've had issues digesting milk, and I was pretty sure that it was one of the proteins. But so far I've been handling it pretty well, drinking extra protein milk. It's like it's got extra whey in it. And it hasn't been messing with my guts, knock on wood. So yeah, that's been my big intake of animal products recently. More whey. And I think it's actually casein that bothers me. But like generally even in regular milk, having that much milk, you know, drinking milk by the glass or having a bowl of cereal in the morning. I'm still not like, you know, I'll have a glass of it or a bowl of cereal, maybe a glass and a bowl of cereal over the course of the day, but I'm not going to have whatever. I'm not chugging down milk like some people do. But I've been surprised, because usually the amount of milk I'm having now, just even regular milk, not protein enhanced, would mess horribly with me. I think it's the lactose sugar that people have trouble with. So usually people say they're lactose intolerant, but lactose intolerant never quite matched the range of dairy things that I had trouble with. So like hard cheeses don't have lactose in them, and yet hard cheeses are some of the worst for me, like that I have the most trouble with, whereas yogurt yogurt has plenty of lactose but doesn't bother me as much. So I'm not totally sure. Might be a combination of things, but But in any case, I have found recently that I've not been having too much trouble with my sudden increase in my milk consumption, which is how I'm resolving my needing protein intake recently, which is wild. Wild, wild. Oh, right, of course, my doorbell just rang, and I was like, I wonder what's getting delivered. No, duh, it's the pharmacy. I have a lovely pharmacy nearby that delivers my prescriptions for free. They're just the most wonderful people on the planet. I love them so much. Oops. Whee! Yeah, I'm definitely not the expert, or the most built, or have the healthiest diet, or any of that by any means, but it just seems like a thing, like, man, in all the going back and forth to the doctors to manage different issues, maybe the things that I put in my face every day have an impact. Maybe, just maybe, possibly. So the neat thing is, because this is fabric that I'm painting, fabric sort of smooshes around. So the fact that it's not quite level here isn't really super duper a problem, I don't think. We'll see. Still beating myself up a little bit about how uneven this is, but I think it'll look fine, hopefully. Calves are much bigger than my flexed arms. My calves are much bigger than my flexed arms. I mean, yeah. Like twice as big, at least in my case. We're gonna call this the cyclist physique. Okay, it's not even close. I have reasonably wide shoulders, and my arms are, you know, reasonably built, but for sure I pick up muscle on my legs way, way, way easier. Thunder thighs in the best way. But, you know, my calves are also certainly much larger than my arms. Is that really a thing? Do people have larger arms than calves that aren't? I guess bodybuilders, yeah, they are kind of ridiculously built on their upper arms, aren't they? Not a thing I'd pay attention to, clearly. You just pointed that out and I was looking at my thighs and my arms like, yeah? Yeah? I mean, also I'm female, so, you know, our build is different, but definitely have more legs. But okay. Well, so that's that. I'm gonna go get myself a granola bar and leave this here for now. And I'll be right back to do the other side. Where do you go, my little bug? Are you a cute little bug? You're a cute little bug. Are you a hungry little bug? I bet you're hungry. Let's go eat. live in New Jersey, I'm surrounded by a lot of people who use steroids. Ah. Their boys don't have a long lifespan. Yeah, yikes. Okay. Well, okay. So that sort of migrated a little, but, and we can spin that there a little bit. Okay. So that's that, and I'm just gonna let this dry for just a moment, and then I'm gonna go do the crosses, okay? I think the knowledge of the side effects would have stopped their use, but not from what I'm witnessing. Well, people do all sorts of things with side effects, right? Okay. All right then. Here we go. Wee, wee. So because cobalt lifts so easily, I wasn't sure how the layering was going to go. It does seem to still be showing, but get quite diffuse, which is fine. But so this is the interesting thing about sorry, this is what I've come to really love about watercolors. is they really showcase the properties of the pigments themselves in a way that many other media don't. I mean, if you're using pencils or acrylics, even to an extent oils, you're not going to see as much of the properties of the different pigments showing through, but rather just be working with, you know, an analog to just a pure color. And it's something that frustrated me about watercolor at first, because I wanted the experience of, oh, can I just get a pure color? Like, can I just learn to mix the colors without having to worry about all these other things? But as I've gotten more used to color mixing, I've come to really enjoy being able to also play with the properties of different pigments to achieve different effects. I'll help my son with dinner. It's been nice getting a chance to hang out with y'all. Bye, Mikey. Whee! That's quite the distance that I put in there. Okay. Really curious about the finished product, so I'll have to watch the rest of the stream later on. Bye! Yeah. Well, I'll post the finished product as well. And we'll see. I will definitely do the rest of these cross pieces on this stream, but I'm looking at it. It seems like I might actually need to do a tiny bit more after that as well to get it looking how I want it to look. So, yeah. There might be yet another stream of this, this painting that never ends. Like, this painting is taking a lot longer than my full imperial sheet sized piece that I'm working on at the studio, which is, like at least 4 times the size. Next you could add bugs onto the tablecloth. Ha 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 ha. Just leave it out in my house that's full of bugs and some bugs will just land on it. House is driving me crazy right now. There's bugs flying around me. To clean up. Claude Monet is not exactly posting them himself. Well, you know, if you want a stream of Monet work, somebody's posting it. But who knows? Apparently the ghost of Hugo Chavez is messing with voting machines, so... Maybe Monet is posting to Facebook from beyond the grave. Bad food makes people dumb and grumpy. I mean, probably true, yes. And yet, bad food's so delicious and so easy. Okay, I need to put some things further on here because that is not lining up at all. Gotta get some more paint. Yeah. More of this lovely stuff. get lots of calls, but no one knows my number. Do you know your number? Because that's always been a challenge. It took me forever to remember. He has a new phone now, but for a while my husband was using a work phone. And I know his parents' number, like his parents' home number, because, you know, I used to call it. But for a long time, you know, he got this new phone and I had it stored in my phone, but I did not know his number, and he did not know his number. People would ask for his number and he'd have to look it up, or I would have to look it up because we didn't know. Hi, Dan. I assume they are from Windows Technical Department. Often they're from the government of China. Not actually the government of China, just somebody trying to scam you. Or the government of Canada, also again, not the government of Canada, just someone trying to scam you. Or, what's the last one? Air duct cleaning services. Or, what's the other scam that I get? There are a couple of scams going on around. You're up late. Yes, you are up late. Always up late on weekends. Ah. For my significant other to come through the door. Ooh. He's out late. Hey. Da-da. Yeah, work shifts earlies are 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. Lates are 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. Ah. My guilty YouTube pleasure is watching Scammer Payback and other similar scam busters. Guilty YouTube pleasures. I've found myself going down the rabbit hole of altogether too many TLC shows, because of course once you watch one like terrible train wreck of a show, it suggests all the other ones. And when you're completely dead and just have no brain, watching other people be dumber. I really like how this piece is developing. Thank you. Yeah, so I've scanned it in with just the plate in case I don't like this tablecloth idea. But I'm trying to break myself of not painting not painting backgrounds as a crutch. So it's the standard in botanical art is you don't paint backgrounds. Notion being that they distract from the main subject. And, you know, there are cases where maybe that makes sense. But I've realized that I use it as a crutch because painting backgrounds means coming up with a background that isn't distracting or adds to the piece and whatever. So I tend to leave backgrounds empty, not because of a choice, you know, an informed choice, but just because it's easy and I'm lazy and painting background scares me. So I've been trying to break myself of that, and starting with this, I figured, okay, well, what would be a background for this that would work? And, well, it's a plate on a table, and so a tablecloth of some kind, and what screams tablecloth without distracting from the main subject? Blue gingham. So that's the notion. So we'll see how it works. I quite like it, but it is going to need a little bit. I ignore most botanical rules, to be honest. I mean, I ignore a lot of things, but I also, I started out doing the SBA, the Society of Botanical Art program thing, and, you know, botanical artists, if you spend time with botanical artists, like the community of people who identify as botanical artists, they're a very sticky bunch. Just very tied to a lot of very like traditional ideas about how art should be. And again, in some cases that makes sense, in some cases there's a good reason for that. I feel like a lot of the time it's just, you know, it's sticky people looking for sticky rules, where there are perfectly fine alternatives. But I've absorbed a little bit of it, and certainly a little bit of it. So I was the president of the Botanical Artists of Canada. Now that organization is no more. There just wasn't enough will to continue. We were all getting burnt out. But in that role, I was cautious about expressing some of my own thoughts about some of these conventions, lest I get into some mix-up where, you know, I appear to be expressing the opinion of a society, where, in fact, I am only expressing the opinion of myself, which disagrees with most of the society. Now that I'm free of that role, I may well start being more verbal about some of the issues that I find in the botanical art community. Yeah, I don't like stuff like that. It's the reason why most botanical artists are retirement age. I also think that a lot of traditional botanicals look very dated. Yes. Or to put it in a perhaps more fiery, but more like technically detailed way. I think that it comes from a very Victorian and colonial tradition, where the original, like the study of botany, was sort of pioneered by rich collectors in the Victorian age who sent out explorers to various faraway lands and collected specimens, and then they would display a specimen collection, either real specimens like taxidermy and the like, or you know, pressed specimens, or these botanical artworks where you have a blank background, just a void, like an empty white box, where you have your perfect specimen that's not influenced, you know, you don't have any bug nibbles on it, you don't have any kind of environment on it, you don't have anything else growing on the thing, you don't have any pollinators, you don't have any of that. This is a specimen that you add to your collection, and everything is in these sterile white boxes. And there's still this idea that I think is more pervasive in botanical art than it is in botany at this point, of, you know, the best way to communicate, you know, the truth about the base truth about a plant is to strip out all of its environment. And I think that that is damaging to our understanding of the natural world, because nothing lives in a void. As well as just from an artistic point of view, you're gonna have, like, it is an option, and maybe in some cases it is the right option. Like, I don't want to say that I'm not going to use any white backgrounds, because right now I'm working on a project where I'm using a whole bunch of white backgrounds. But understanding that a plant does not exist without its environment, that living beings do not exist without their environment, that in fact the world is messy and complicated and nothing exists in sterile white boxes, is essential to our understanding of how the world works. And we're not going to gain a full understanding of any species by putting it in a white box. I get that, but it's been a long time since then, and we now live in the 21st century. Our art should be able to as well. I think it's almost a toxic ideology. Agreed. And more to the point, like, whatever the ideology is, I find it... I'm a member of some botanical art Facebook groups, and if you talk to botanical artists in person, they'll talk about how, oh, you know, the downside of the reason why we're not reaching younger audiences is because we're not connected to the right social media or whatever. We're too analog. And I don't think that's really the case. Like, there are very active Facebook groups, and now granted, Facebook is not the youngest social media platform, but that's not the point. The problem is that when somebody comes in showing their illustration of a plant against a fence, or covered in bugs, or with a nibbled leaf, or using some outlandish colors, they get schooled about this is the way that botanical art is, and you are not being scientifically accurate, and what is this background? You're painting a still life, not a botanical. And get really discouraged and leave. And I don't think that that is useful. I think it scares away people who, in fact, are working as botanical artists, as in they are painting plants for a living, who just don't want to associate with that community. And that the community is going to run itself into the ground without some substantial changes, and I'm not seeing the substantial changes happening. And so I'm a little bit torn, because on the one hand, I feel like addressing that, like, come on, you know, I'm a botanical artist, I paint plants, I want these communities to live, but also realizing that communities are a group of people, and this group of people is not interested in hearing that. So, you know, maybe there will be a group of people who is interested in forming an association called botanical artists or plant artists or, you know, whatever. Scientific illustrators who paint plants. At some point, now or in the future, but that is not... that's not this same group of people. If it brings them joy or money, at the end of the day, that's all that should matter. Right, or if it serves a purpose to some scientists, but even to generalize all scientific publications as this is how you should paint for scientific publications, like, no. I mean, scientific publications use all sorts of things. Some of them use cartoons. Like, it's not, you know, you don't, there's no, the world has changed. There's no rules that say this is how all botany works. A lot of botany is the study of interactions. So if you're doing, if you are representing that might look different, or it might be something about, you know, over time, where maybe something like an animation is more useful, or you're trying to communicate something in 3D and a sculpture is more useful. Like, there are so many things that just get excluded from this very strict definition of what is botanical art, and I think that it might even be useful to teach, you know, the old standards and styles as a, you know, as a specific, if you are looking to achieve this look. Because some people are, right? Some people do want that, old lithograph look. Things that look very staged. Fixed, like a specimen in a jar. I mean, you can buy specimens in jars. People like that look. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's not the only way by any means. However, because I had been immersed in this community, because I'd been basically trying to modernize from the inside, like, I thought, I don't know, I kind of jumped in without really getting to know the community. Like, oh, we need somebody to jump in and take a leadership role. We need to modernize. We need somebody to help bring us into the future. Like, yes, I'm young. And no, young is not really what they needed, but, or not all they needed. And I'm burnt out from that. But, yeah, I have thoughts. They're complicated. You can still show respect and appreciate past styles and influences. It doesn't mean that you should be forced into painting in a specific style for it to be called botanical. Yes, fully agreed. Fully 1,000% agreed. I think it's a crying shame that some of the knowledge and history and technique that's been worked on by this older generation of artists who belongs to this one set of societies is likely to die out in the next few years, with very few people to carry it forward, even though there are just as many people coming in and painting plants as there ever were. I think it would be much nicer if I think it would be much nicer if we could all just get along. Sorry about that. But also, like, you know, I'm not going to make that my business. And I'm not going to, like, I feel like I have better things to do with my time than start fights with people who feel strongly about the definition of botanical art. Like, fine, if you want that word, have that word, you know? Or, well, not really the definition, but the practice or whatever. I'm torn because on the one hand, I feel like there's so many people who are like, oh, I want to bring this into the future. And I feel like a lot of them would be receptive, but I also feel like if I were to go to the general group of botanical artists, you know, it's a fairly small community, and pitch, hey, you know what's wrong is that we're colonial and backwards, it would start a firestorm, because there are firestorms about much, much smaller issues, and, you know, like, I don't have time for that drama. So I'm just gonna do my thing and call it what it is, and if people want to talk to me specifically about my thoughts, that's fine, and I'm sure that some people will find my platform where I discuss my thoughts about various communities, but I'm not going to name and shame. Because, again, I have better uses of my time. Like, I've dedicated enough time to botanical art drama in my life that I don't want to dedicate any more. In what era did the 4 primaries turn into the 3 primaries? I don't know. I kind of like 4 primaries better. I'm gonna be honest. But I think some of it has to do with additive color spaces versus subtractive color spaces. Being able to work with light, like filtered light, and the advent of film, like color film. And a better understanding of how we see color, which is a sort of triadic system. Where there are in fact red, green, and blue are the colors that we see best, right? Because of the cones in our eyes. And so if you're translating that to an additive system, then it's going to be the opposites. I've been working for ages on like trying to communicate some of this stuff visually, because I feel like it's really poorly explained, but yeah. I have a lot of thoughts and a lot of time to myself where I'm just like painting something small to like work through all my various issues with various things. Like the community in botanical art and all color theory ever. 6 p.m., huh? Also, Stephen, I thought you were, like, I'm not trying to kick you out, but I thought you were leaving. You're back? Welcome back. Or did I just mistake someone else leaving for you? I thought you said you were going. Yeah, I think I do like this. It's gonna need a tiny bit more touching up to make it, like, I'm not trying to hide the fact that it's watercolor, that it's brush strokes, but I do want it to, from a distance, look like an item, look like a tablecloth, not look like just a crosshatch. So I'm gonna go through and add some add the woven fibers of on one of these directions. I haven't decided which. Add the woven in fibers, like the diagonals, and strengthen the intersections. Me? It was Mikey and Paulo. Oh, okay. Okay. Sorry, I'm mistaking you for other people, clearly. I just said I wanted pizza. Ah, yeah, gotcha. Yes, pizza's delicious. Never used to like pizza much, but recently. Okay, so there's that. That's most of it. Give me a moment to like absorb this, but then, yeah, decide what I'm doing with it. I think I like it. But I think I need to add just a little bit more definition and detail, both around the edges and just the little cross hatching of the fibers to make it look, to just to match the level of detail, so it doesn't, yeah. Just because the cobalt as well, like the way that it's layered, right? It brings up the whole previous layer in some cases. So yeah, just make it all, make sure everything is lined up and looks like fabric. But then that's that. And Jill, 6:14. So I started this at almost 4. Do I want to do this now or later? Kind of want to do this now just to be done. So I may just continue this, but I do need to check that I don't have to be somewhere like inspecting my sister's house. Spaces. No. Sorry, my sister is moving into town from... Jill left. The last comments could be misconstrued. Gotcha. Sorry. My sister's moving into town. I'm supposed to do her final walkthrough for her. Make sure that everything is fine. So I just needed to check, because I hadn't gotten an answer about when that is, that I wasn't supposed to be heading over there right now. I don't see anything about me heading over there right now, so I think I'm safe to keep going. I'm just gonna very quickly, so I'm gonna take a tiny little brush and just go over here, and over there, and this, and there, and there. Yep, that's gonna take forever. I'm probably not gonna finish tonight, but that is what I want. So what I'm doing is I'm just creating some little texture here in the blues. Now, of course, after I do this, I'm probably going to look at the white sections and be like, oh, they need some extra texture too, but we'll probably not do that because that would be crazy and barely visible. But just making these little diagonals and the crosses, and the diagonals and the crosses. I'm doing the one below just so I have an area so I can see what that looks like for a larger area, but I'm pretty convinced this is exactly what I need. It's just going to take forever. The actual cloth does have some complexity in the pattern. Right? Right? Yeah. So that's going to take a while, indeed. But I think it'll look really cool when it's done. And I'm just going to work on this because seems like a thing that I can do, which is going to be a really, like, I know that I've had streams where I'm just using a label maker, so, you know, I'm the queen of boring streams, but this is, this might take the cake as my boring streams go. So everybody is forgiven if they do not want to watch, but I'm going to just sit here, and I'm happy for any company and conversation I can get while I'm working on my super boring thing here for the next little while. Probably not gonna finish on stream, but never confirmed. Don't worry about it. Okay. Alright. Well, it seems like I don't have a... maybe I don't have a walkthrough. Well, that'll work. I mean, also it's too bad because I kind of wanted to go spy on it. I went to her last walkthrough, but they were in a rush. I have a toddler. My sister was all concerned about the current owners, and I'm not concerned about them at all. But she didn't want to, you know, invade their space too much. Whereas I would have just been picking apart every little thing. So I was kind of looking forward to the chance to go pick apart her house. What all problems are you going to have? Just given the delight that my house is right now. Yeah, so I will be on at least until my dog becomes too antsy about being cooped up inside. Poor doggo. I have a winter dog, and you know, I live somewhere where there is summer, so she suffers for it. Speaking of which, Dan, how's your how are you surviving the heat? because honestly, you have it much worse than we do this year. What blue is this? This is Cobalt Blue Deep by Roman Schmal. So this whole painting is all done with Roman Schmal Aquarius colors. I was mentioning at the beginning of the stream, I have a lot of their line. I should look at how much I'm missing, because it's like plausibly I could get all of it. I bought a bunch of their colors, but also they sent me a bunch when the line launched, and then the last two releases, so the 25 and then the 15 colors, I received all of. So I have something like 60 or 70 of them. Now, I mean, the line is huge, so I would still have to buy quite a bit, but to complete the set, but you know, there is a gotta put that Jackson's credit to use. Although actually it was it's a local company who sent me the last one. So the first two sets I got direct from Roman Schmal from Poland, but now they have a local distributor in Toronto, so it actually came from Gwartzman's Art Supplies. A lot of paint. Yeah, it's a lot of paint. I think I do have to go and get some food now. Thanks for the stream. Bye, everyone. Who was I asking? Who was I asking what? Sorry, that was a while ago. I think I've forgotten what my question was. About managing the heat. Oh, Dan, because he's in London. Pen holder art. Nan. No, I don't. No Nan here in this chat as far as I know. This is where Nan suddenly shows up. Yes, so a number of people here, Dan included, have a YouTube username, but also are known humans who have their real name. So Dan has his business name, Penholder Art, but it's also attached to his actual name. Like if you go to his website, it has his actual name, so it's not a secret or anything. Is Ember being adorable these days? Ember is always being adorable. Right now, she is lying, I assume, beside a AC vent, as she does, being morose that it is summer, because I got myself a winter dog, and we do have summer here. And she just melts in the summer. She'll still go for walks, but she's like her drive to want to run around is very low. You go for walks and she starts just dragging her feet. Unfortunately, she really does need the exercise, so we just have to find ways to get her to exercise. Even though she won't, be as interested in running around, it's kind of necessary to get her to move, otherwise she starts getting grumpy, and when she gets grumpy, she gets mouthy. Both the making noise way and the, too many teeth way. We need to take her to the beach. Yeah, so there's it's a conservation area now. It used to be gravel pits called Snyder's Flats, just on the other side of the Grand River from where we are. That ever since it was gravel pits has just been a place where people take their dogs to go swimming. Now it's a conservation area, and the signs all say no dogs allowed, blah, 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 but our dogs must be on leash, no entering the water, no whatever. But it's still very much a dog park, like it's completely ignored. And people don't go there really without dogs. And there's no enforcement. So my friend had a birthday party for their dogs at Snyder's Flats. For their dogs, sorry. Not dogs, but invited all the dogs for a doggy birthday party. And Ember loves water, but she hasn't been running in, like she'll run into the water, but she won't, properly go swimming. So I kind of want her to go, like I want to take her sometime with Gooey. Because the other dogs there were either much smaller and not going deep into the water. Or Molly ran into the water once, but Molly is so much older that just doesn't have the same endurance. So I want another dog who will run all the way into the water to convince Ember to go in. I ran into the water, which humans going into the water, Snyder's Flats. So, a health risk, shall we say. I mean, lots of people do, lots of other people in the party did, but there are beavers in the area. It's probably not a great idea to be in the water. First 2 years, we literally had to carry our water dog into the lake. No, she'll run straight into the water. In fact, she looks out for water because she knows that she can cool down by going into water. But she won't swim. Like, she'll just, run up to, halfway up her chest and then run back out. And then run in and run back out. So she's, not actually swimming. And I'd like to get her swimming. But, she just didn't have any other doggy examples to show her how great water is for swimming. She loves water, so wherever we find a creek or a pond or a large puddle, she's straight into the water. She loves it. But yeah, exactly. Because Gooey goes fetch in the water, all the way into the water, goes swimming fetch, which was actually why I ended up going into the water, was I threw out a thing and Ember ran into the water and then was like, but that is past where I can step, and ran back. Okay, fine, I'll go get it. Come in, Ember. No. I'm going to race around like a maniac. I mean, the other option is to carry her in, but I wasn't going to do that at Snyder's Flats again, so somewhat more comfortable in Lake Ontario. More water. Not just ponds that used to be gravel pits that are full of beavers. That are off the Grand River, which is just disgustingly polluted. The Grand River is not as polluted as it used to be. The Grand River used to be disgusting, but it's not anymore. Still not recommended for human swimming, but... Yeah, with Ember, the other thing we do is we just turn on the hose and she'll run through it or run away from it. So we have a few hose games that she plays, which helps her get some running around, even when it's really hot out, because again, she does need the exercise. She'll go for walks, but she'll, you know, she poops out really quickly. And she needs a lot more than just like a, you know, half-hour walk in terms of stimulation on the average day, so. In fact, I'm gonna go to the washroom and then see if I can fetch a dog. Get her little face on camera. On stream, but I'm still on stream, but people asked about the dog, so.
You better go and stream a little bit.
I know, stream time.
Yeah, you have a job.
You have a job. Come here.
You're gonna help Mama.
Come here. Gotta help me. That's your job. Yep. You'll come to work with me. That's what service dogs do. Who's a service dog? You? Okay. You're heavy. Okay, little lap dog. Oh, I know, wolf lifting. It's like weightlifting, but so much squirmier and so much furrier. Okay. Hey, little face. I know, you have a cute little face. You got, okay, no, please don't. That's not what I meant by help. Go look. Look up at the camera. Hey, doofus. Hey, doofus. Okay, I now have a wolf on my lap. Oh my goodness. For anyone new watching, she's not actually a wolf. She just looks like one, but much sillier. Ember is a border collie Inuit sled dog. Oh my goodness. Okay, off you go. Bye, little wolf. Oh! I see Snoot Gooey is interested. Sorry, I keep on. There we go. Yeah, she's good. She hasn't eaten her lunch for some reason. I wonder what's her deal is. She's a weirdo about her food sometimes. Doesn't always eat her food. She was so excited about it because we opened a new bag, so I don't know what her problem is. She might just be tired. She spent a lot of the morning outside. She slept in and then spent a lot of the morning outside. And she did have dinner late last night, so I don't know. She hasn't eaten her lunch yet. So she gets 2 meals a day. Lunch or brunch and then dinner. But she didn't ask for her food and didn't ask for her food and didn't ask for her food, and eventually I decided to just feed her. And I fed her and put her food in front of her and she was all excited, and then I came back down hours later and it's still there, so I don't know what her little deal is. But yeah, she's cute. She's good. So is Neuron. Although Neuron's kind of a brat who's been... He's recently started begging for food again. Which he hadn't done in years. Like we free fed him. And then as he got older, he started gaining weight because he wasn't as active anymore. And it spiraled a bit and he got fat. So between being fat and having issues, like he had a bladder obstruction over Christmas, and had to go to the emergency vet. The vet told us to limit his food and give him prescription food. So we did, and we're following the instructions on how much food he's supposed to get, or sometimes even giving him extra. And for the first little while, even with that, he wasn't really, a little while, I mean months, still wasn't, he was finishing his food, but not, he'd often take his time with it. But recently, he's just been constantly begging for food. Food. And like, it doesn't matter, there are days where we've way overfed him. Because he'll go to me and then I'll go to the studio and he'll go to Jordan and then he'll go to me again. We'll have 2 cans on the go so we won't know, because Jordan's been feeding him, so Jordan starts a new can, and then I've been feeding him, so I start a new can. He's been massively overfed some days, and yet he's still begging for food all the time. Plus, he figured out that if Ember asks to go outside, no matter what the time is, I get up and I take her outside, which means he tries to get her up. Hey, can I wake up the dog? What happens if I wake up the dog at 6:45? What happens if I wake up the dog at 6:30? What happens if I wake up the dog at 4 a.m.? And riles her up, so then, she's moved around, she's run around, her bladder's all ready to pop. And at this point, I'll try to negotiate with her, like, are you sure you need to go outside? No, I really, really, really need to go pee. Which is true, and it's not her fault. Because she got woken up and baited into running around. So she genuinely does need to go to the washroom. That's the little monster's fault. Ember, what are you doing? What is that? What is happening here? What's happening? What's that? These are your toys. That's a laundry basket. What are you doing? Come on. Come. Touch. Here. Ember. Commands aren't optional. Here. You know this. You know. You're being silly. You want me to chase you. Here. Ember. Here. Yeah, that's right. I am smarter than you. You're very smart, but you're a dog. You're very smart, but you're a dog. And you're very big and strong, but you're a dog, and you're still smaller than me, and I can still lift you, and I can still grab you, and I can still bring you here. And I can still make you come if you are being a silly baby. Dad. Right. Silly baby. Silly baby. Hey, uh-oh. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Hey, Amber. Silly baby. Oh my goodness. Yeah, you're silly. That's right. You're silly. What are you doing? Da-da. Okay, sorry. This camera really does not want to be pointed that way. Whoop. It's on this tripod arm that's really not made for... Oh. You're silly. You're a silly girl. Oh my goodness, so silly. Oh my goodness, so silly. Such a silly baby. Okay, off you go. Off you go. Go eat your food. Go eat your food. Huh? There's food for you downstairs. Go eat your food. Amber, what are you doing? Okay, I think I need to go deal with this dog now. What are you? What are you crunching? What are you crunching? Oh, that's probably dog treats, isn't it? Yeah, from some previous venture. Okay, sit. You wait. Okay, good. Good wait. Ember, hey, did I tell you get up? Sit. Good. Good girl. Okay, I need to deal with the little dog. So I'm going to go deal with the little dog. Bye. Yeah, need to deal with you.